friends, my name is Andrea. I'm an artist in residence through Levine Cancer Institute in Concord. I hope I'm finding you safe and well. Okay, so this piece is going to be created in layers. And to start, we're going to be working on the first layer, which I just have a either white piece of paper or heavier body paper. In this case, it's actually a white watercolor paper. So use what you have though. It does need to be able to withstand some water. So to start, I have my watercolor palette out and I have my paintbrush. I just have a bigger moppier brush. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to think colors that I like. I'm not even worried about covering the entire paper. But I'm going to do what we call a wet on wet wash. And so I apply this water, and the purpose is so that as you add in these colors, they kind of blend and mold into each other. And so for this thought process, I'm trying to think merry and bright. That's my theme for this. So I'm just gonna try to think some bright colors, but I wanna have some transition in it too. So, you know, you might think bright and instantly think yellow, which is very accurate, but I don't want it to be just so stereotypical. I want some movement in there, so I might even put some blues in there, let them transition and bleed into the yellows, but the idea is bright. Now the thing is, when you put that water down first, it does tend to dilute it, so you have to kind of consider that as you're playing in this other color. You'll notice I'm not putting it all over the entire piece, but letting them kind of come into each other a little bit. Layering here and there is needed versus covering and putting the entire thing. Now I'm just playing, again, merry and bright. What reads bright to you? Something with a little energy here. I like energy. I'm gonna like kind of a little fluorescent green in there. So just play. Cover as much of that paper as you want. The next step I'll show you will kind of give you an idea about how much paper you really do need to cover, because you'll notice I'll probably leave this bottom part just a little more open and it won't be a big deal. I'll show you here. Okay. And I do want to let that tack up just a little bit before I do my salt technique. If you've seen other videos of mine, you know how much I love this salt technique. It adds a personality and whimsy to it that you could never replicate on your own. Obviously, I feel like I need another color in there. So while it's still wet, you could still dabble and put some other colors in there. So let that dry up some. I'm gonna sprinkle some salt. I like to put it in my hand first, so I feel like I have better control rather than the straight salt shaker, but do however your heart feels at the time, but you'll almost hear the sprinkle and drop, okay? And then we let it dry. I can't emphasize how much it's important to let that dry. You might be able to see now that these salt pieces are getting darker depending on the color behind it. It's absorbing the water and taking the color up into it. And so while it's doing that, it's going to leave some white behind and leave these beautiful kind of crystal effects to it. So we're gonna set that off to the side, let that dry. And if that didn't tap into some creativity, we'll get into this more fun, almost kid-like mentality of cutting and gluing if we haven't done this for ages. So now my goal in this case is this is my second layer. The second layer is going to sandwich right on top of this colorful part. And my goal in this stage is to cut away an opening that is going to expose that coloration behind it. So I picked this kind of brown paper so that it wasn't going to fight against that background coloration. So it's a neutral. You could do a white, but I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker. So a black could be absolutely wonderful. If you can get a hold of a black piece, you'll notice that this needs to be the same size as what the other paper is you were working on, if not even slightly larger, because the idea is that it's covering up all the other spaces to it. So I have a little heart stencil here, and I plan on putting a little greeting, since this is the front, written at the bottom. Excuse me. So I will lightly trace this. So you notice I have a pencil. When's the last time you took some time to trace with a stencil? And every once in a while, sneak a peek over there at your watercolor, because you'll notice how that salt's starting to take a beautiful effect. All right, now I'm going to deem this the back of my paper, so just in case I have some rough pencil lines, hopefully you can see that okay. Now I'm just going to cut into it, and it seems silly, but I'm going to give you a little bit of cutting instruction in this case. So I'm going to poke a hole first, pencil, scissors, whatever it might be. Do my best not to wrinkle it. And as wild as this seems, I'm going to work. I'm not just cutting the entire star out in one spot, but it seems really unnecessary at first. From that middle point, I'm going to make a connection to all these little corners because I want this to be a nice pointy star. Well, it has to be. Not a huge deal if it doesn't take on a point. My whole goal is just to remove this paper in a clean fashion. Nobody's gonna see the star that I'm actually cutting out. I'm just leaving the silhouette behind. Now, if you have any of these fancy cutting machines, obviously that could just do the trick for you, but you're not using the star. Again, you're using the negative space, so make sure you're saving that. And then I just work, check this out. I can do one fairly smooth line at a time. This might get a corner that's hung up. And these little pieces, I'm removing our trash. And it just gets you from corner to corner, ever so smoothly. Watch those fingers. Now, I want you, as I'm cutting this, consider some other things. I thought a star said merry and bright for some type of greeting more than ever. This doesn't have to be a merry and bright theme. It could just be something really more understood as a silhouette. So maybe it is a silhouette of a tree, be it an evergreen of sorts. It could be the silhouette of a snowman even. Just 3 circles on kind of semi-stacked, but same thing, just make sure you're getting your angles correctly. And do know that this is super fun for kids to get involved in too. Depending how well versed they are at cutting, you may need to do some assisting in this case, but that's so gratifying for them to include their painting in the backdrop with something like this. So we'll get that out of the way. There is my star silhouette. I'm gonna pull my example over here. You're gonna start to see how, well, rainbow-rific this really is, but look at the salt, how it's really starting to gather some of that color with it. Now, when this is dry, and this next step is very important, you have to let this be bone dry before you do the next step. And I would also hold it over the trash and just gently buff away that salt. So it needs to be extremely dry, because the next goal then is, remember the side that I was really doing the rough cutting on or using the pencil on, is going to be my back. So this is where I'm going to slather on the glue and then press it on top of it to give you that visual. Again, here's this. I can lightly put it over top of it and just see how fun and bright that can be. And then I'll give you an example. Like I said, fun for all ages. This is one that my toddler did. Look how fun all that salt is on there and how gratifying she'd be to know that you were sending just a greeting card of a piece of art that she did. Now, if you glue it on, you realize, oh man, I really didn't get these cut to size, or they're not exactly the same size. Fine, either use your paper cutter, your scissors, straight edge, whatever it might be. Once you glue it, then you could always trim them to size, so don't beat yourself up if this is not the case there. And then I would just probably write a little bit of greeting. I keep saying merry and bright, so merry and bright it's gonna be. And there you have yourself a nice little silhouette greeting card. Happy creating, my friends.
Thanks for watching. For more information, visit us online, send us an email, or give us a call. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when new videos are released. And most of all, be well.